So through the magic of stopping to go to work and finishing this side of the door before I started the video this morning, it's a completed door. So now we're going to work on just painting this foam to look like wood. So that's what this video is going to be. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a black wash on the foam. That's going to get into all of the wood grain that we made, all of those scratches and the knots that we made into the wood. We're going to put a black wash on those. So I've got a lot of colors that I've pulled out of my paint stash. I may or may not use a lot of them, but one color I will use is black. The licorice and the lamp black, those are two of my favorite colors. So I'm going to start with the licorice. That one's what I'm going to start with. Now, I save these little containers a lot. They're just little containers that from just different products. Instead of throwing them in the recycle bin, I just save the lids from, you know, cream cheese, sour cream. This one I think was from garlic spread, because I can use those for mixing paint. And then once I get my use from them for that, I can just toss them in the recycle bin, but they're good for mixing paint. So I'm just going to put some black paint, sorry, in this bowl. I'm going to add some water, give it a good stir. Doesn't matter what kind of brush that you use, whatever's your favorite. You're just mixing some paint. I tend to use my brushes a lot. These are well-loved brushes. And my friend Juanita had sent me some information. I think it was maybe a link on Facebook Messenger a little while back that you can use Murphy's oil soap, of all things, to clean your paintbrushes and restore them. And it works. So I've been able to stretch my paintbrushes to last a very long time. They may look worse for wear, but the brush bristles are still very usable thanks to Murphy's oil soap. So Juanita shared that with me. Alright, so I think this may or may not be what I need. Let me get a paper towel, because I may have to add some more black to that. Because what I want is enough, you know, that may be dark enough. I need it to be dark enough to go into the cracks and crevices of what I've done on this foam and stain that black, but I don't want it to actually paint the foam board, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to brush that on, and then I'll take a paper towel and I'll soak up the extra and see how all of your detail that you put on with just the little scratchy tool. I used the broken coffee stir stick to put the detail on this one, to put the wood grain, just because, you know, it was easy, it was simple, it wasn't a special tool or anything. And then I made the knots in the wood. You can't really see it until you put the paint on it, but once you put the paint on it, you can really tell what you got going on. And that black wash getting into all the grooves is what really brings out the work that you laid down. And all we're going to do is just lay color on top of color on top of color. We're going to start with the dark first. And if you already know how to do this, then you won't want to spend so much time watching this part. It's probably pretty boring. Me, when I very first started doing anything miniature, anything dollhouse, which was during COVID, that's when I very first started learning how to do anything miniature. I would just sit and watch videos of people that were doing this stuff, and I was just so amazed, and I would just watch their videos just because I loved seeing how they made things happen. I just loved it. I still do. I still watch a lot of people's videos. Okay. Now, some of this is going to have more color, some's going to have less color, and that's okay because it is supposed to be wood. And wood is not going to be consistent all the time. It's not going to be exactly the same because it is a natural product. Nature's not symmetrical. We're not symmetrical. Okay, now on top of this, we're going to put some brown. Now this is where you're going to do your own individual thing. If you want your wood to be, you know, brown, you're going to use shades of brown. If you want your wood to look like it's very weathered, you're going to want to start layering shades of grays with some browns and some greens and things like that in there, whatever colors you're going for. I think I want to do some browns, and then I'll dry brush it. So I'll probably, I've got nutmeg, raw sienna, espresso bean, cocoa bean. Let's see, what does this nutmeg look like? And I also use this very fancy palette. It is just a styrofoam plate, but it works and it's cheap, and just about everybody can have access to a styrofoam plate. Now I'm not going to change out my brush. I'm just going to clean it off because it was just for my dry brush or my black wash. So I'll put a little bit of this brown paint. Which one did I say I used? Nutmeg. And I'm just going to brush a little bit of this on top. I'm not going to try to press it into those wood planks or the engraved portion. I'm not trying to press this paint into those engraved portions. I'm just lightly brushing this on the very top so that it sits over top of that black wash. You'll still see some of that black wash through this brown. That's what we want. I hope the sound on this styrofoam is not annoying, because I don't know how to edit that out. Alright, so just some black wash and a little bit of brown paint. That's what one side looks like so far. Alright, I think I'm going to pause this so it doesn't get too long. Alright, and now both sides are painted with the brown. So we're going to set that aside. I am going to pick up one of these skinnier brushes. Oh, where's my camera? right there. It's just a skinnier, longer shader brush. I'm going to dip it into this black wash, and I'm just going to go over my little lines that make my wood planks, just to give those some definition so I don't lose those, because as I'm putting paint on these, I'm going to end up losing those lines. This is just a process that I go over and over, because as I build the color, I end up losing some of this, and I just have to keep going back over it a little bit sometimes. That's okay. All right. Dandy paper towel. I will also do a little bit of dry brushing here in just a minute, and I'll show you why that's important to dry brush, because that's going to make a lot of this pop out. Get my little black parts, little dark parts, because I want my wood to look really weathered. I don't know if you're making this little gate, if you want your wood to look weathered, but I want mine to be really weathered. I think we already talked about that. Another thing with this foam board, what you do to the front, you're going to have to do to the back. So here in just a little bit, I'm going to have to turn it over, and I'm going to have to put some paint on the back. When I put the Mod Podge on the front to seal the front, I'm going to have to put some on the back, because with foam board, what you do to the front, you need to do to the back. Otherwise, it'll make it warp. It's just the way foam works. So just a little tip, what you do to the front, you need to do to the back. You don't have to decorate it. I mean, you won't have to do all of this to the back. If you wanted just to put a solid coat of something, some color on the back, which is probably what I'm going to do, just one solid coat of paint. And what I do need to do is right between the doors, I want it to show that that is two separate doors. So I'm going to take this skinny brush with that black wash on it, I'll go right down between those doors to show that separation. If it gets on my stir sticks, that's fine, because I'm going to stain them a little bit anyway. I want that to be a darker black. I want that to show up a little bit darker. So I'm just going to get a little extra paint on the end of that. Okay. I make a mess when I'm painting. That's why I usually got paint all over my hands. I got it all over me. I'm kind of a mess. It's okay. Now, I would imagine, it is just my opinion, that my weathered little door would show some wear in these corners. This is where rain and some weather would be the most prominent, would be in the corners, like on a normal everyday, like if you were at an actual barn or an actual home, where the joints are, that's where a lot of the wear is going to be. So that's where I'm going to give it some extra love and attention, because I want that to be shown. It's just extra detail. Okay, so let's get a little bit of that. a little more of that brown. We're just going to brush over it a tiny bit, and then we'll go ahead, let this dry for a second, and we'll go give it some dry brush. Okay, so while I'm waiting on the wood planks, the foam to dry, I'm going to mix a little bit of the raw umber and the black cherry in this little container with some water. There's not much in here. I'm not going to need much. It is like that consistency, maybe like a milk consistency. I can see through it kind of, maybe a little bit, not too much. But what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to stain my coffee stir sticks. So you can mix whatever colors you want. If you want to leave it uncolored, whatever, but I want mine to be colored. And I really love this black cherry color, but I mixed it with some raw umber just to give it a little bit of a darker brown backbone, I guess, to it. I don't know. I'm making that up. Y'all know I am. I did it because I wanted to, because I thought I'd like the color. That's why I did it. There's no rhyme or reason. I just thought, wonder what this would look like. And that's how I do a lot of stuff. That's how I do it. I just wonder what this would look like, and then I end up doing it. And then a lot of people will ask me, or they'll message me, well, how did you do that? Well, children, I have no idea. I just did it. So that is the main reason why I've started trying to video as I'm learning this, or as I'm trying to figure it out, as I'm trying to wrap my brain around it, so that we can all do it together. Maybe as I'm figuring it out, y'all can watch me try and fail sometimes. I have as much failure as I have success, sometimes more. But I guess that's true with anything. That's the fun of doing it, I guess. I'll keep doing it. Okay. Oops. Well, there's a mistake right there. I've got this big old white piece of foam right there in the corner, and that's just not going to work for me. Because when I look into my room and I go to take a picture of my room, I'll have this big old blaring white piece of foam right there, and that's just not going to work. Because if you're looking for a realistic photo, that's just not going to work. And that's what we all go for, right? You want to be able to look into your room and see something that looks real. Or you want to be able to take a picture and be like, oh, I'm fooling my eyes. How did I do this? This looks so good. But I'm just going to use the same little black cherry down the side. Now, I probably won't even see this part down the side, because that piece of stone that I'm going to make out of the other foam is going to be on this side. So down this side part, I probably won't see it. But I'm going to stain it anyway, just in case I am able to see it anywhere in a picture. Just covering all my bases, because you never know what might be visible. And if I'm going to do a job, I might as well do a good job, right? Right. That's what Mom and Dad always taught me. If you're going to do a job, might as well do a good job. Okay, so that is what I have. Now we're going to do a little bit of dry brushing, and then we're ready to put some Mod Podge on it. So for dry brush, I've got Folk Art. It is matte. It is vintage white. We're going to use very little. I've got, these are my favorite little brushes for dry brushing. Lord have mercy. Where's the little camera lens? Can you see what that looks like? They're the little, I don't even know what the hairbrush things are on this. What, children? I don't know that thing's picking that up, what that looks like. But anyway, these are, they come in the packs at Hobby Lobby. They're the stiffer brushes, is all I know to say. They're stiffer. They're not those smooth brushes. They're the hard, stiff ones. And I use them to death for dry brushing. They're hard and stiff, and I use them to death. Okay, I've got a little bit of this white on here. I don't need, goodness, that much paint. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to swirl it off on this paper towel. And that is literally all the paint I'm going to need for any dry brushing for in this whole thing. Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go to a different little spot. So now I've got just barely any little paint on here. Now, my little spots where I've got these knots in the wood, my little scratch marks that I made with the little pointy tool and stuff yesterday, what I'm going to do is take this little dry brush of white and I'm going to slightly just brush over it, just to kind of raise that up a little bit. It's going to highlight that little knot in the wood, or where your planks go together. We're just going to highlight that. The whole thing does not need to be highlighted. You're just going for pulling some of the edges up. I'm going to do some of my little edges here that I left up on the end. And when this white dries, you'll see that it pops it up out of there. Okay. One side with dry brush, one side without. That's what the dry brush does. Okay. This is the same thing that I do to make the wood beams for the ceiling in my dollhouse. Do the same exact thing with the black wash, then the colors that I want to use, then the dry brush. It's the same kind of process. You just make the foam look like wood and you fool the eye with the paint. It's an illusion. Let's go down the edges of that wood. Paper towel soaked up a lot of paint, so let's do just another little touch there. that is the barn door, gate, whatever that we have right now. And the last thing that we're going to do is put some Mod Podge on it. And this is what I'll put on the front and the back, because this is going to be the most of what I'm going to put on anything. And I'll just use one of these little brushes. Also, you know, it's just from that same pack from Hobby Lobby. So over the entire thing. And this is the Mod Podge gloss. I like the look that it gives to my fake wood when I'm doing it on this door. It just like varnishes it. I may go back over the actual wood part in a matte just to give it that weathered look, but for right at the moment I want to give it this varnished, this glossy look to it. And it'll seal it up pretty good. Not that it's going to need to be like really sealed or anything, but it's not going outside. And just to take off some of that shine, if I wanted to, I could just press it with the paper towel. Pull up some of that shine. I'm going to flip that over. Just give this a quick little brush on the back. I'm not going to paint it. Just going to give it the Mod Podge on the back so that it doesn't run the risk of trying to warp on me, because what we're doing to the front we got to kind of do to the back. Okay, and that's it. That's all we got to do. I don't want my Mod Podge to settle into my... You might want to do that. You don't want your Mod Podge to settle on the ledges of your coffee stir sticks. So maybe just brush it off. I didn't think about that. But that's all we have to do.